everybody. Thank you for coming to our winter breakout. Hello to the people out on the virtual, out on the internet somewhere. We're going to be talking about the preferred name policy and discussing how we have started from policy and now how we've moved to implementing it. And students, and I'm Sean Moriarty, Chief Technology Officer here. So we've implemented a preferred name policy, and we have a link to the policy. So it's out on the internet. It's on the Title IX compliance page. And we had a working committee that included staff from the President's Office, Howard, Gordon, Lisa, Jerry, Ramin from the Provost's Office, and Sue Fisk and I from CTS, because a lot of the work that we had to do was to go and implement inside of the systems. And as we went through, so I'd say that we started in September of last year, kind of started as school began, which is like a year and a half ago. And throughout the year, we went through and gathered feedback from people. There were a number of schools inside SUNY that already had policies. In particular, we looked at Plattsburgh's and basically modeled what we had done from them. And as we went through and started discussing what the policy would look at, we did go back and gather feedback from communities such as advanced users, because we make a lot of changes inside the system, and people would need to be trained on how they go and look inside the system to gather the information, and actually it goes a lot wider and covers that. And we also include the President's Council, Provost Council. We had word of mouth information, we got feedback from Sharona and others on campus. So the policy really brings us in line with Title IX provisions. And the reason that we wanted to do it was basically for these two reasons. For personal identification, some people going through transgender and transitioning individuals wanted to be known by a preferred name, and this fit with Title IX and the atmosphere that we want to set on campus. But also many other schools that have implemented it. A lot of the students come from Asia in particular, and want an Americanized name, and so this allows for that to be done as well. So I'm going to hand over to Jerry, who really manages the process for us.
So in addition to this preferred name policy and implementation,
this is the audio that comes out of the CTS devices.
We also just wanted to be very gender and identity inclusive. So while we looked at it first under making sure that we had an inclusive way for students to be able to the preferred name, we also recognize that other people may also want a preferred name. So it's for any individual to do that. I manage the student side. So students who are interested in having a preferred name, fill out a form and come and see me, have a conversation with them. And the reason why they actually physically come into me, because we're in the pilot stage right now. A lot of the systems are in place to be able to use the preferred name, but then there's a lot of them that is still being worked at. So for instance, once it gets set, it does class rosters, right, class lists. At the end of the semester, it was supposed to do grades list. I don't know if we're there. So conversation with me is to make sure that who I'm working with, we understand the limitations of policy at this point, because we're in a pilot state. So that's why they have to physically come in to me. And it's also good for me to have a conversation with them about other services and things on campus. So it's a really easy form. I meet with them, and then I'm able to actually physically go into Banner and update the system right away. And what it does right now is it allows for them to, if they would like, to change their ID cards. So we have a system now where I think you can advance it more. Yeah, to the next, so we can talk about those things. So right now, all requests come to me, and it's essentially to have a conversation with the students and to review what their preference is, and also to make sure that it's appropriate, because we can get some requests that are inappropriate. And so we kind of monitor that. It's a quick, easy paper form. And what happens is once it's approved and go into the system, it will change their ID will change, their preferred name will change immediately in the system. ID and dialing is notified. Sean's office is notified just to make sure all the systems in the background are working well for the preferred name. And then the students have the ability to get a new ID. So what we did with the new ID card system is, in essentially, students who have elected to have a preferred name will have their preferred name on the front and a legal name on the back. And this is because there are places and opportunities and functions on campus that need the legal name. So we want to make sure, like UP and financial aid, that that information is still there because we need to be able to track them in certain things. All right.
So your ID card is not changed? It's still a legal name?
The ID card, their preferred name is on the front and the legal name is on the back. The email system is interesting because if you can explain that, Sean.
Yeah. So with the so just to go back to the card, mine must be over here. Anyway, on the card, I don't know where mine is right now. So it would have your preferred name on the front and then in the back. It's put in at the very top. Okay, and we spent time. Campus ID card, and at this point, we on a go forward basis, if someone changed their preferred name, then we go and change it for it so to go from Jerry's office on the 5th floor right down to dining and ID and cards down, and they'll get a new card.
Once a year.
Once a year.
Well, if they change their preferred
ID card every year.
Well, yeah, they don't need to because we're assuming that they would go for a preferred name, but people can change their preferred name once a year.
Yeah, hypothetically, they would decide to change their name every year. Get an ID card.
Yeah.
Hypothetically.
Yeah. Hypothetically, yes, that's the way it's set up.
If we notice an abuse of that, it might change.
Yeah.
But hypothetically, yes.
And then what was the other thing we were just talking about?
Email.
Email. Okay, so with the email, the way that it would change basically is inside LDAP, the preferred name would be what people typed in. So if you type in someone's name, and so for instance, let's go to Jerry because she's an excellent example. If you type in Jerry, you know, a series of names come up, and you're able to go in and select that. So if your preferred name is to change, you'll be able to type that name in, and the preferred name will come up. Now, if you've emailed that person before, so for instance, if I start typing in Jerry, Jeri, I actually have emailed Jerry before. So she got married last year, and so she's gone from Jerry Drummond to Jerry Howland, right? So both of those names happen to come up for me because I've emailed them before, so I have to know. So if you've emailed the person before and you were to type in their last name, then both of those are going to come up, is the way that it works. So for a student, though, we don't change their LakerNet ID. It stays the same. But inside of LDAP in the email, that name will change. This slide really goes back to the legal name usage, and there's times where we still need to use the legal name in implementing, and certain employment payroll records, you can see billing records, financial aid documents, the official transcripts have to have the legal name, and you can see the list where we won't necessarily use the preferred name. And just to go back to this, and you had been talking about, so we've implemented preferred, one of the things that slowed us down in terms of implementing preferred name and piloting it was that Ellucian was coming out with a number of modifications to Banner where they would go and recognize preferred name and made those changes. And those changes came out probably in about February last year. And so we tested them on the test systems and then implemented them after school was done. So it works on things like class roster. So faculty will get the class roster with the student's preferred name, which is what we want to do. However, the grade module isn't up to date. And so when it comes to the end of the semester or the middle semester, when faculty go to implement the grades, then there's this discrepancy in the name. So we've tried to make people aware of that, and the faculty, like the first semester was so bad because, as you and I had discussed, there's probably about 25 people who have done that. And we tried to communicate with those people that there is this name discrepancy, and this is the preferred name and this is the legal name, and you'll have the student number and they should be the same. But as the systems update over the next year, we'll be able to go in to bring more of these systems in alignment, and there'll be more areas where the faculty will see the preferred name all the time.
So currently the advisor list and the housing list are on the list to be updated, right?
Yeah.
As well as the conduct system, which we use Maxian. Currently that still pulls in the legal name and not the preferred name, but that's part of the plan as we roll it out. And so that's part of the discussion I have with the students when they come in and fill out a preferred name, because I want them to be aware where we are able to accommodate it and where we're not, so that they're not surprised.
Yeah. So, and this kind of goes and describes, and I talk about in this third bullet point, that the new function allows for support of the items. And where we have focused on is the student-instructor interaction. And as more functionality becomes available, we'll go and implement it. And then the other part is, a lot of times in the administrative offices, students go in and identify themselves on the preferred name, but they need to identify themselves. They won't necessarily come up in the system because there could be people with lots of the same name. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's part of the thing I think that Jerry would describe to the student, and they could show their student card how it has a preferred name and their legal name on the back. But we've also really tried to go and educate people. This is a discussion in Banner Users Group to be aware that there's going to be people with preferred names, and we put an indicator or flag so if someone in an administrative office can know that, and they can go and find the preferred or legal name should they require it to go and service a student. But also a part of that comes with being culturally sensitive to the student having the preferred name and treating the student the way that we want them treated. Equally with that would go with campus police, so they're aware, particularly there's times where if they want official documentation, that SUNY card, like our Oswego card, is an official state issued picture ID. So having the preferred and legal name so that the campus police knows, that they can go and get the legal name off the back. Part of what we've been working on. Yes, Rebecca.
Are staff being trained so that, if a student can't be found in the system, if they just ask for the ID to make the whole thing just work more smoothly? Because if they have the ID in their hand, they can easily check to see if there's another name without it having to be like a large conversation that everyone else seems to hear around them. Because that is part of it. But I would say at this point with 25 students, I don't know that it all, it comes up so rarely. I mean, we talk about it and we say it. So I think you need to have both sides, because someone's going to forget and not do it.
Yeah, I mean, when a policy came in fact, at the beginning of the fall, we did send out, there was some email about the policy. But when we fully implement it, then it will be another communication about it. So right now, we've shared with the Banner Users Group in different offices, especially in Koken, about, turn the card over. But I think you're right that the full campus should be aware that if a person is before them and they say their name and you have it as different or you're not finding it, to flip over the ID card. Yes.
How for incoming students, so they're changing their name before they come?
Yes.
Is that done as they're being admitted through admissions office?
It started last summer, so yes. They get the
I'm
form
not-
through orientation. And so it comes to me and we process it. We had a few before the semester started.
Yeah. Having said that, admissions does gather some information on preferred, like when people fill it out, they might not put their legal name. And that's in the admission system
yeah.
and not in the student information system. So we have information on how we deal with the students, like inside of admissions. But then when they go to register, then that's a whole new set of material that they need to enter. So it's only later in the process.
Yeah,
and
when they
it
have
is a
orientation.
separate form at this point. We'll see as we're looking at a new admission system for next year. We'll see how that integrates in with it. Okay. I just brought up the policy itself, which is in Oswego.edu, Title IX policies. And
It's also under in the handbook, student handbook.
And inside there, it has a preferred name protocol, and we have some FAQs on.
So if I deny a request for preferred name, appeals go to the Title IX coordinator, Lisa Avanescu. We haven't had that, but there is an appeal process if I deny a student's request. And I would only see that happening if it's highly inappropriate.
Yeah. So I guess I'd ask, like now, if there's questions, anyone. Yes, Jeff.
I have a whole bunch and I don't want to dominate, but I write a great deal of the external and internal communications for the college. And several cans of worms do follow from this. And Sue and I have spreadsheets that we get through Banner and through the registrar's office to make notice of students' achievements. Dean's list, president's list, and so forth. And we began implementing this last semester, and we simply eliminated the pronoun count.
Right.
When you're talking about transgender folks, then we get into the issue of pronouns. Is this committee going to continue and come up with guidelines for use of pronouns in college communications, or is this simply something up to Wayne and us to come up with?
Yeah, that hasn't.
Yeah, I'd say
Yes.
we haven't. Yeah,
We've
we
talked
haven't
about it.
discussed that at all. I would say for me, that would probably be a discussion that goes back to Lisa, and as
We've
a
talked
starting
about
point.
it.
Then if Lisa decided that we needed to get together, I would leave it to her to make that decision.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna ask a similar question. Does Banner have like a field for gender? Is that something that self-identify? What is the system?
Well, the gender field, I think people will have to self-identify to get the information in. However, that's a legal designation at this point. So I would say that people, as we talk about the legal names and we're using for those, right now the gender designation is legal. And we go with whatever they're identified in on their legal documentation.
And are there any plans to change to that and have kind of a similar like self-identified gender? Maybe have this legal guidelines in business.
I would say at this point, no, there's probably not any look at changing that on the documents. That really hasn't come up. I would go back to more how we're going and treating it in other areas of the campus and facilities and looking at that rather than going and having people have a preferred gender.
Yeah, the policy only talks about name and not gender, even though we recognize that that's something that's important. But because of we can't legally change that information unless you legally change your identity or name, we can't. There's no field in Banner for us to have a preferred gender identification. But in areas like housing and facilities and different places, we are communicating down. And I believe that the move is to take away pronouns, right?
Unless the person is consenting.
Okay, we got time for one more question, although Rebecca might say we're done. But since we started a moment late, does anyone have one more question? Not that we can't continue this outside if we wanted, but I can tell they're the 11:30 person's about to start, I think is. Anything else?
I'm not gonna let the opportunity go by. The theater folks are famous for adopting stage names. And I just wondered if say a theater person wanted to change annually, would you regard that as a trivial thing to be denied, or would you, and I'm talking about a wholesale, first and last name.
We only change the first name.
First name, preferred, because really this is, we're using this as a communication device inside the class. I don't know that a student would really want to be identified differently from one class to the other, I guess, depending on how they were doing. But I think they'd want that consistency. This is a way to start anew.
So yes, the policy only.
I'm going to come and be a different person.
It only includes first name, but anyone who wishes to have a preferred name can do so.
You can log us out.
Students come to the Dean of Students office and staff go to HR.
Yes. So.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the people on the internet who are watching.